Hi guys, James at Rampant Lion Reviews again for you today with another beer review. For this one we are going to head to Ellon in Aberdeenshire, which many of you might know happens to be home to Brewdog, and we're going to have a look at the fourth incarnation, if I'm not mistaken, of their lager beer. This is the latest addition to their headliners, or core range I should say. So we're going to have a look at Kingpin today, which comes in at 4.7%. Now if I'm remembering correctly, the first lager beer that Brewdog did was the 77 lager, the first one that was available majorly commercially. Then it was the fake lager, which I didn't think was as good as the 77 lager. One of my friends thinks that the 77 lager's the best they've done. Then came the This Is lager, which I actually really quite liked, and now they have this one, the Kingpin. The lager beer seems to be one that they do actually play around with quite a bit in comparison to the other beers. A lot of the other beers they kind of leave alone, but for some reason they do like to play around with the lager beer a little bit, and they did actually do one for the Unleash the Yeast series as well, which was the Pilsen lager, which I do think was quite nice as well if I remember correctly. But it's quite interesting that they keep playing around with this recipe and trying to improve it, so I'm interested to see whether this one is better than This Is lager. So yeah, quite interested to try this one. But anyway, as is usual with my beer reviews then, I'll tell you a little bit about the brewery. If you do want to get straight to the tasting, just fast forward. All the usual links are in the description below. That's the brewery website, the link to my future reviews I'll do from Brewdog. I've done about 100 of them already, so make sure you check them out. There's all the usual social media. If you want to see more beer reviews, do subscribe to the channel. If you're interested in beer from a particular country, city or state, you can go into the homepage and search for beer based on that. There's also the playlists of beers from the different countries as well that you can check out. Do check out my sake and whiskey reviews, as well as the interviews, collaboration reviews and other things that are on the channel too. And please do get in touch and let me know some of the other beers and breweries that you guys would like to see me review. Your support and your input to the channel is always hugely appreciated. So anyway, to tell you a little bit about Brewdog, so these guys are based up in Ellon in Aberdeenshire, like I said. They were founded back in 2007 by two guys, James Watt and Martin Dickey, and their first brewery was actually in the Keswick Industrial Estate in Fraserburgh in the very northeast corner of Scotland. But like I said, they're now based in Ellon, which they moved, their new facility they built down there, they moved into in 2012, and that's closer to the city of Aberdeen where I used to study chemistry. Now these guys are a very kind of experimental craft brewery, and they're largely influenced by the American craft brewing renaissance. They cite Stone Brewing Company as one of their major influences, and I mean, if you try things like Punk IPA and Hardcore IPA and things like that, you can sort of taste that influence if you compare them to the Stone beers a little bit. And they actually do market themselves as an IPA brewery, although personally I would say that their darker beers have been some of the better ones that they've produced. I really like Dogma and Riptide, for example, although I do like Hardcore and Jackhammer as well. Those are probably my four kind of go-to Brewdog beers actually. But these guys have done some interesting things. They've held the title of World's Strongest Beer on 3 separate occasions. They've got various different series of beer that they do. They've got the Ace of Hops, which used to be the IPA is Dead series. They've got the Paradox series where they age Imperial Stouts. They've got the Abstract series where they play about with lambic kind of styles and Belgian sort of things. They add different ingredients to the beer, play around it. They've got their Amplified range, which are the sort of harder alcohol ones, and they have their main, like their, I think they call it the Headliners range as well, which is their kind of core range of beers too. But these guys have done some really interesting things. Since I think it was 2010, they opened up their first brew pub, which was the one in Aberdeen. I was there on the opening night, but don't remember that so much. They've spread them all throughout the world since then. The furthest away one I can think of is Tokyo in Japan. They also have one down in Sao Paulo in Brazil, if I'm not mistaken. They're constantly expanding that. They're actually working on their second brewery over in Columbus, Ohio in America at the moment as well, so that will also have their first bar in the States. And they've also just opened up their own distillery in the facility at Ellon as well, which will be called Lone Wolf Distillery. They've produced some gins so far, but we're going to have to wait a year or 2 or 3 years, I think they were saying, for the whiskies to come out. But these guys are the largest independently owned Scottish craft brewery, and what's quite interesting about them is just how fast they've grown. And the main reason for this is their Equity for Punks program, which is basically a sort of crowdfunding mechanism where fans of the brewery can actually buy into it, and you can exchange that for kind of discount in the shops and the bars and things like that. So a lot of the growth that has come out of Brewdog has been because of that crowdfunding mechanism. So it's pretty cool actually. It's a really interesting business model for those of you studying business. So yeah, that's enough about Brewdog for the moment. We'll actually get on to the tasting of this beer. If you want to read more about them and keep up with their blog posts and things like that, you can check out the website in the description below. But let's get on to the tasting of this beer itself. So it says on the side here, Kingpin, For years, people have been suffering the maddening delusion that lager tasted of nothing. Well, we've got some 500-year-old news for you. It tastes and then some. Kingpin is on a crusade to put lager back on top. It is lager reborn, a taste sensation for the 21st century, the crowning glory of the Pilsner dream. Brewed with 100% malt and a juggernaut of hops, this cold-conditioned king lies recumbent for a full 5 weeks. Expect the first wave of robust, full-bodied malt character to hit, then spicy citrus notes charge across the palate with an assertive bitter finish win the day. Kingpin, centuries in the making, moments in the glass. Lager is dead, long live the king. So yeah, it tells you a little bit about Brewdog on there, and it says best before 14th of the 5th, 14th of May 2017. So it's got the typical Brewdog artwork on it there, as you can see, and this one has a yellow bottle cap. I do have the specs of the beer here in my notes as well. So it says here, this one is hopped with Pearl, which is a German hop, and Magnum as well. These will give you some really nice kind of floral aromatic notes, and they've got a malt base of Pilsner, Pale, Cara and Munich malts too. So it should be really nice actually. Much looking forward to trying this beer. So let's get it out and into the glass then, and we'll see how we get on. So yeah, as you can see, a nice smoky opener on this one. I can smell some of these nice grassy floral notes coming off this beer already. I really like the Pearl hop actually. One of the kind of really interesting hops that's come out of Germany recently. Gives you a nice big floral aromatic spice. It's always nice to add that to IPAs and things, I find as well. The Tomahawk is another really interesting one that's come out of Germany recently, if I'm not mistaken. So as you can see, this beer has poured a really nice kind of pale golden straw colour that you could actually be forgiven for mistaking this beer for being an IPA if you were just looking at it. It really has that kind of rich orange colour. It's not really as kind of clear and see-through as you'd normally get from a lager beer in my experience, but that's the main thing. I'm sure it'll taste like a lager, but yeah, you can see there's a quarter, maybe a third or a half finger of a frothy white head on this one. It is actually opaque, this beer, rather than clear. You can see that if I put my fingers behind it. There's some big bubbles sticking towards the side of the glass, but not too many, and quite a few little ones just going up towards the bottom of that head there. So it looks really quite nice actually. We'll see how we get on with this, but let's have a look at the aroma then. So if we sugar it up a little bit, oh yeah, no, definitely a lager aroma coming out of this one, as you'd expect. So yeah, you can get quite a bit of bready note from this one actually. It does smell really bready. There's some biscuity malt coming out of it as well. You're getting that kind of pale, almost grainy character out of this beer. So you've got some nice biscuity sweetness in there. It smells really, really nice. Yeah, some nice floral, grassy character coming out of this one. It's actually quite mild in the hoppiness, but that tends to be the thing, I think, with lager beers. This one's got a really nice malt base to it. I like that kind of thicker breadiness that it has. Yeah, so some white bready malts. You can get a little bit of the pale malt in there too. Some kind of grainy characters. And a nice sort of floral, kind of grassy thing going on there from the hops. It's a little bit spicy actually, but the hops do smell a little bit lighter. There's a wee bit of citrus coming out there. It smells more. The hoppy side of the beer is leaning more towards the sort of grassy type thing, which is it's quite nice actually. So yeah, we'll see how we get on with this one then. This is the Kingpin Lager from Brewdog up in Ellon in Aberdeenshire here in Scotland. Slàinte. Yeah. Now this one, in comparison to the This Is Lager, from what I remember of This Is Lager, it had a lot more kind of hoppiness to it, I would say. This one leans more towards the malty side of things, which is quite interesting. And there is, there is a good bit of hop character in here. But just with my palate, I think this lager beer, you get a nice bit of hoppy bitterness around the edge of the tongue, but the malts I think are a bit more prominent in this one than they were in the This Is Lager. But this is, this is another good beer. I do always wonder that. I mean, I like the This Is Lager, and I kind of wondered, will Brewdog play around with this recipe again? Because I didn't think they really needed to. But they've done it, and they've done it with this one, and they've produced another quite good lager, I would say. So it makes me wonder why they've played around with it, because they didn't need to, but then they've produced another good one that focuses on the other side of the lager flavour. So it's kind of interesting. I'm not quite sure what to think about Brewdog brewing lagers in that regard, actually. But I mean, In terms of a lager beer, that it's got I like these craft lagers because they always have a good bit more flavour than you're going to get from some of the from, you know, the macro lagers and things like that. And of course the ingredients will be better quality as well. That's the other thing. And the thing is, from what I remember, This Is Lager had 3 or 4 different hops in it, and it had about 3 or 4 malts in it as well. This one has 3 or 4 different types of malts, and then only the 2 hops, the Peril and the Magnum. So that's probably why it's leaning a bit more towards the malty side of things. But it works, and it's a nice lager beer. It's quite drinkable. And in a way, I can guess maybe that's why they've done this a little bit, because Brewdog obviously are known for being a kind of hop forward brewery, and perhaps if they're trying to kind of market themselves to the kind of more the regular kind of lager drinker, the This Is Lager was quite a hoppy lager. And if they're wanting more people to kind of get into drinking their beer, then they probably want it to lean a little bit more towards the malts. So that's probably why they've kind of done this Kingpin one, which does lean a little bit more towards the malts than the hops. So yeah, I can see what they're kind of doing with this one. I mean, I do quite like it. I don't drink, I mean, if I was going to Brewdog, I have to admit, I probably wouldn't drink the lager if I was going to one of their bars. You know, I would go for the Jackhammer, or I would probably drink more of the Jackhammer, maybe the 5 AM, or maybe even the Punk IPA. Probably the Jackhammer though would be my choice. I would have 1 or 2 of those, and then I would move on to, you know, like Dogma or Riptide or something a little bit darker than that later on in the night. I probably wouldn't drink the lager beers, but I think they have these beers on in Witherspoons now, and I can see why they're trying to get this one to get more people into thinking about drinking local beer and things like that. But yeah, in terms of the flavour though, we'll just describe it a bit more. The middle of the palate, you've got a kind of pale malt base on this one. It does have a good bit of cereal-y character to it as well, and you can feel the sort of thicker bready notes on there too. There's a little bit of that almost biscuity sweetness in the middle of the palate too. I'm not really getting, there is caramel in this one, but I'm not really getting that kind of richer caramel flavour that you can sometimes get. Around the edges of the palate, you're getting what you'd expect. There's a kind of floral aromaticity to this one. Around the front curve of the palate, it is more grassy. It's quite light in the hops, like I say. There's a little bit of spicy character to it as well, which I think is the Peril. From my memories, it really is the Peril that's coming out on this one. But this one is quite grassy. I do like the fact that it has a little bit of that almost noble hop character to it. There's a tiny little bit of earthiness in the back corner of your palate too, which will be from the Peril. The Peril has that noble hop quality about it. From what I remember, Magnum, I remember being quite a nice, wet, grassy and floral aromatic hop, and you can get the elements of that as well in this. But like I said, overall, in comparison to the This Is Lager, for me, this one leans more towards the malt side of things. And like I was saying, I can see why, if Brewdog want people to drink their lager a bit more, this is probably why they've done Kingpin to replace This Is Lager, because this one I think is a bit more malty than This Is Lager was. Brewdog, like I say, a very hop forward brewery, but they've made this lager more malt leaning. But I mean, I like it, and I mean, if I was just, without taking into regard the sort of commercial aspect, I guess, of it, I do wonder why they changed This Is Lager, because I have to admit, I did actually quite enjoy it, but then I liked 77 Lager as well. Fake Lager, I wasn't, it was alright, but I wasn't convinced that it was better than 77 Lager, and then This Is Lager was better than Fake Lager, and then they've changed this one as well. So I guess when you compare this one, when you compare the Kingpin to the This Is Lager, it really is a question of whether you like a more malty leaning lager with a kind of bready and pale malty notes, or whether you like a more hoppy leaning lager. And it really is just a matter of taste. I kind of like both of them. I can see the appeal of both sides of the coin, if you like. So I wouldn't say, perhaps, I wouldn't go as far as saying this one is better than This Is Lager. They both have their own kind of characteristics, and if you like the hoppy one, This Is Lager is probably better. If you like the more malty leaning one, then Kingpin is probably better. But it's interesting to see that Brewdog can play around with these recipes and still produce quite good things with a lager beer, because lager, of course, from a brewer's perspective, I think is one of the more difficult styles to get right, and I think that's why more people tend to go for Helles beers actually in Germany. So yeah, quite an interesting review this one to do, and quite interesting to see Brewdog experimenting with this beer style a little bit more, because it is one of the more difficult ones from a brewing perspective to actually get right. But they've produced another one, like I say, this one is a bit more malty leaning than their other one. In terms of the mouthfeel, this, it's what you'd expect from a lager. It's light bodied, it's got the crisp carbonation, there's a little bit of an oily character to this one, but mainly it's a wet mouthfeel. The malt base is very smooth, there's a little bit of sweetness to it, and you have a bit of dryness from the hops in this beer too. But overall, another quite nicely done beer from Brewdog. Lager beers, of course, it's not really kind of what you'd expect to drink from Brewdog. They're more an IPA brewery and stuff, but if you like a kind of nice, slightly malty leaning lager, then you will enjoy this one. So yeah, and once again, thank you for watching my beer reviews. Until the next time, please like, subscribe, share. As always, let me know in the comment section below your own thoughts on this beer. Always interesting to hear from you guys that are watching the videos. But until the next time, go and support your local craft breweries, and let me know some other beers and breweries that you guys would like to see me check out. Make sure you check out all my social media as well, and I'll catch you very soon with more Brewdog reviews. This one is the Kingpin Lager from Ellon in Aberdeenshire here in Scotland. Slange just now.